Hi there and welcome along to another episode of Form Check Fridays, where I take a look at various people rowing and give my opinion on what I think works and what could do with a little bit of work in their technique. And importantly, I give some tips on what they might want to try to get closer to what I think would be the best way to row. Now, if you want me to look at a video of you rowing, then please send it to info@rowalong.com. Just upload it to YouTube or send it via the WeTransfer.com facility, and that way I will get it, okay? Just film it side on the way I do my row along videos at a stroke rate that you are comfortable at, and I will make sure and include it in a future Form Check Fridays. Now, today we're going to look at two rowers. We're going to look at Jeff and Piotr, which I hope I pronounced correctly, to see how they're getting on. So let's start off with Jeff. Okay, here we go with Jeff. Now, first things first, that's a rather good setting for your rowing, isn't it? A lovely swimming pool, and you're about to see a couple of very cute dogs as well. So let's hit play and see what's going on with Jeff. Okay, so first things first, when we take a look, I'd kind of look at the shin angle. I mean, he's mostly there, if you look at it. Maybe could do with a tiny little bit further forwards, but you know what, for near as damn it, that's okay. And actually, if you watch through most of his stroke, sometimes he gets right into vertical like he did just then. Sometimes he's slightly off, so we'll forgive him that. Now, first, let's look at the dog. Isn't that a beautiful dog? Anyway, right, so, I mean, if you look at shins are in a nice vertical position, legs are nice and down. Danger of locking out the knees there, which I'm a little bit concerned about, but it's not that bad, so it's fine. So full power going in. It doesn't look as though when he gets to the back of the stroke, let's take a look. Yep, if you look at his feet as he gets to the back of the stroke, then they're completely connected to the foot plate. They're not flicking backwards onto the foot straps. So this is all good. Now, what I'd say while we're on the foot straps is that they're maybe just set, his feet are maybe a little bit too high. I'd be interested to see what would happen if Jeff was to reduce, like just take it down as what, 3 holes showing? So if he was only 2 holes showing, whether that would then mean that he would always hit that vertical position for his shins. We don't know whether it would do that, but it might. It might be worthwhile just trying to see what happens, just from that compression point of view. I mean, his knees seem at a very comfortable position. They're not up in his throat or whatever, so it's just worthwhile looking at it just to see what happens. Just as a kind of a test, just to really see. I mean, you don't need to do it, but it's that kind of thing that if you're feeling bound up at all at the front, then it might be worthwhile looking at it. So legs are good, shins are, yep, feet are good. Hands are nicely, you can see that they're kind of hooked over the handle nice and loose. Let's quickly take this one to the front. You can see, let's go again. Thumbs are underneath, and you can see there's a gap between his thumbs and the handle, so he's not choking the life out of it. So that's fantastic. That's a nice thing to see there. Arms are nice and straight as he comes in. But, and everything's a but, it's the shoulders that concern me here. So if you take a look at Jeff's shoulders as he comes in, and then as he takes the stroke. So if we go into slow-mo, there's a real shrug that happens. As he comes up, it's like a shrug. And as he comes forward, the same, it's like, I was looking at this before and thinking, there's something strange about the angle of his hands and arms. And it's because his shoulders are up as he comes forwards, up kind of around his ears, pretty much. In fact, there's no point me waving at you, but just look there, you can see that they're up, that they've kind of come up to his ears. And then what happens is as he takes the stroke, it goes up and you see this real kind of jolt that happens right through, let's see, so it comes here, and that's that jolt right here, as he kind of, the elbows turn down, the shoulders jolt into it, and everything straightens up. And actually, it's almost like he's hyperextending at the front, and then as he starts to stroke, he then resets his shoulders. So it'd be worthwhile just kind of taking a look at how you come forwards. Let's quickly just go into this. How you come forwards, and then there's a tiny little overextension at the front, but I actually think it's more of you're kind of grabbing in with the shoulders at the back rather than kind of coming in and letting the power come from your feet through your body and into your hands. And then then what that happens is because of that real jolt of the shoulders, you're ending up kind of quite high up with the shoulders around your ears. It's weird. It's like you start with them high, you then do that jolt and then end with them high as well. That said, I mean, apart from the shoulders being up high, you finish nicely with the arms. The elbows are, I mean, it's relatively flat. Yes, you could argue that your handle's a tiny little bit high. Your layback might be a tiny bit further back, but you know what? For indoor rowing, that's not really that much of an issue. I think you finish quite nicely with the hands for the time being. And to be honest, if you were to lower those shoulders from up around your ears, just to take them down, you'd find that your hands would settle back down to the right height anyway. And it might even sort out that kind of, that slightly far back layback. I mean, you're literally, I mean, instead of 1 o'clock, you're like, sorry, 11 o'clock, you're like 10:30. It's not really that much. So the biggest thing I would say is to get those shoulders down. Okay, so when you're going through the row, let's take out a slow-mo. Keep your shoulders down, to really think about them being loose. Remember, like the zombie that I talk about with the nice loose shoulders. And through the stroke, keep them low and finish. And really do think about keeping your shoulders nice and low and out of your ears. Okay, so I'll give a demonstration here, because I do like to give the tips on what's going on. Is that, so if you are coming forwards and then grabbing, and then you can feel the muscles, I can feel the muscles up in my neck tightening up as I grab at the top. Okay, so you're still getting the drive right. I think this is closer to actually. You're getting the drive right with the arms straight, but because your shoulders are up around your ears and that jolt, you're finishing, it's like up here, the muscles up here, what are they, traps? Don't know. They're suddenly on fire for me trying to do this thing for you. So if you're like this, just think about relaxing your shoulders. Maybe even, it looks as though you've got a bit of an external rotation of your elbows anyway, but if you can just think about keeping your shoulders nice and loose and down and out from around your neck, then the difference between that kind of high finish with the handle and then that lower into your sternum, and that way you can get a lot more power, because you start to use your lats and things instead of your, I'll call them traps. Someone can tell me if I've got my physiology wrong, but these muscles up here, the ones that kind of attach to your neck, they're the ones that are really sore from me shrugging up there. So that's the big thing that I'd maybe suggest dropping your foot stretcher by 1 notch just to see what happens in terms of that compression to the front. But really, I'd just think about just, hey man, relax man, and just get those shoulders nice and down to kind of help. And like I say, sometimes if you just slightly rotate out your elbows, you can see what's happening. Well, hopefully you can see what's happening to my shoulder, is that it's kind of turning down as I do that. So if you have a slight, just a half rotation of your elbows out, that might just be enough to keep your shoulders down and not up in your ears, basically. So that's the 2 things: foot stretcher, and then think about getting your shoulders down, and actually you would have a really, really good stroke. It looks like you've got lots of power coming out from your legs. You're finishing nice and straight. You've got a good finish with the arms anyway. And then it's just about, if you want to go faster, it's just about putting in more of a leg drive and then finishing strong through it and really feeling that hang off the handle. But you are very close to being almost there. Just fix those 2 things would be my advice. All right, so that's us done with Jeff and his lovely dogs. Let's get on to Piotr. Okay then, apologies again if I've pronounced your name wrong. Again, I went onto a website to see, how do you pronounce Piotr? And everything said Piotr, so that's what I'm going for. Apologies if it's actually just pronounced Peter. Anyway, let's hit play on this now. This has been done alongside one of my RowAlong videos at 28 strokes per minute, so I'm going to hit play on it. And it's interesting to see slight difference here. So he is kind of, it's similar with a kind of a higher finish, but his shoulders aren't up around his ears. It just, if you look there, it's just a good kind of, it's like a powerful finish with the elbows out that seem to kind of give him a higher handle height, but he doesn't have his shoulders up. So that's an interesting one just to see. So the first thing I'd maybe look at on this is to say, I wonder what would happen if you finished the handle just a tiny little bit lower. I mean, it's only really just to see whether you'd get more power out of doing that kind of solid pull in, because it does seem to be something a little bit lacking here in terms of how far the elbows are maybe coming out to the side. Maybe that's kind of more, if I do this, it's more like that you're finishing. So it's rather than coming through your sides, coming out to the side, which might be an on-the-water thing. Maybe you're an on-the-water rower, who knows. But still, listen, it's a nice finish, so only change it if you think that you're losing power there. Legs, let's see. Legs don't come all the way down. You can see that I've got like an angle here between the thighs and the shins. So yes, you could come down a little bit further to really maximize that power and just put in that force. Again, I wonder whether feet, it's hard really to tell from this angle. I wonder whether feet are set a little bit too high on the foot stretcher. So I've not actually looked at the knees at the front to see what's going on. To be honest, you are getting, I think, quite close to Jeff. You're getting close to vertical. So again, what would happen if you dropped down one notch? Because really, when we're looking to this position, the real thing to notice is actually quite contradictory. Firstly, Piotr could probably have more room to be able to slide further down the rail to give more compression to his legs, which might be helped by lowering the foot straps. But also somewhat contradictory is that he has an overcompression of the upper body down to his legs. There's a real overlean into the front where you're kind of collapsing into the front slightly. I mean, you've got quite a good straight posture, to be honest. If you look at what's going on here, that's quite nice, straight. You're not rounded in things. But what's happening is that because of this little lunge in at the front, you then reset into the angle that you really should be. Okay, now I know this because this happens with me all the time, is that I come in and I do an over lunge and then I take like a 1/10 of a second to reset. But you can see that there's like 3 frames, 1, 2, 3, before you actually connect to the handle. So you're going in, over lunging, resetting, and then driving. Whereas if you were to, in fact, instead of waving my hands at you, so in my case, I come forwards, I lean forwards, and then I reset and come back. So I go forwards, dump, and then back. Forwards, dump, back. And what's happening is my dump and reset both happen, dump, reset, before I connect to the flywheel. So if I really try and think about holding my angle, slide forwards, so slide forwards, hold the angle, and then just push straight out again, I don't get a power leak that happens from that swing as my back resets itself. I come forwards and then I instantly drive straight back out, hanging off the handle. And that's one of the big things that you miss if you have that reset, is because you're already moving back, everything's swinging and you lose that hang off the handle. And that is my big thing right now. If you've not seen the video with me hanging from a pull-up bar, then watch it, because the big thing, though, how you get the power in, is from that hang off the handle. And so you want to do everything you can to try and maintain that. So that's the biggest thing I'd say, is to really try and not have that over lean. Just really try and think about, in fact, what's going on with your sequencing for knees up. I mean, your knees are coming up slightly before the return, but certainly your knees are coming up well before your hands are past them. So what you want to do is, again, let's go back into this. So what's happening with you is that you're kind of going like this. You're kind of going, let's try and get this right. There's like it's almost like lazy arms. I think that's the best way to put it, is that you're getting them out nice and straight at the front, but you're quite lazy at getting them out. And so that is what's kind of almost creating that dump at the front, because you're in that rhythm of, you're just rocking and rocking. Whereas if you try and think about finishing, hands away, rock, then knees, hands, rock, knees, then by the time you bend your knees, you're in the perfect forward lean, and you don't have to do any more leaning at all. And that's how you lock in that position for the catch, because you know you're not doing anything else to your back. Lock it. Lock it. Okay? So you don't have that dump at the front. So look, let's quickly have a quick scan to see if there's anything else to pick up on. I mean, we've done arms, We've done the shins that are pretty much vertical. The leg drive could be a bit more, legs could come all the way down, but it's really the timing of the knees and that over lean at the front that I'd say are the big things that you might want to work on, certainly from this stage. And then you can look at your compression at the front. Are your shins, could you do going straighter? But actually I think it's like you're over compressing by that kind of over lean at the front. So I would work in order. I would go from the hands over the knees, body rock, and then sliding in forwards, because that's going to cure that dump at the front that you've got that I keep on talking about. So just take it, even slow it down, slow right down to slow motion, drive to the back, hands away, rock, and then bend your knees and come forwards. Because remember, I'm not really that big a advocate of doing the pick drills where you stop at each point. So rather than going drive, hands, rock, bend in a very kind of robotic mechanical way, I'd rather you just slowed right down, went hands away, rock, everything just flows into itself. You don't have to put in much of a push from the front, you're just moving up and down. So you drive, arms, rock, knees. And then as you do your knees, you're no longer bending your back, tilting at all. So arms, rock, knees. And that rock backed position should be completely locked in place by the time your knees bend. So just slow-mo for like a minute, 2 minutes. Just really think about arms, rock, knees. Arms, rock, knees. And just really get that sequencing right. And then if you've got a mirror in front of you, that's even better, because you can kind of catch yourself from doing the dump forwards at the front that I keep talking about. And the little kind of reset that happens. And then once you've done that, that's when you can start to look at, right, so why are you stopping short with your legs? Why aren't you getting them all the way down? So you can then start to think about, just get them down, point your toes to the front of the machine. That will help. That's the tip for how to make sure your legs come all the way down, is that you drive to the back, point your toes to the machine, and then you return. So point your toes at the back. Point your toes, because it's really hard to point your toes and stop short. If I'm there and try and point my toes, I'm going to fall off the back of the machine. So point your toes to the front of the machine. Point, and that'll get those legs down. And then you can think, well, what's going on with your arms? Do you want to address anything? Like I was saying about, it looks as though they're coming out to a bit more of a chicken wing rather than straight through. It's whether you want to address that at all. My reason behind that is this thing of the natural rebound that you get from your rib cage and your muscles and your tendons and things. When you pull in, just if you sit somewhere like this and just push and just kind of pull your arms behind you, you'll notice that your body just wants to bounce them back again, even only 2 or 3 inches, but it wants to naturally bounce them back again. And you use that momentum to get your arms forward again for this hands away over your knees to then have the rock. So maybe because you're finishing high and you don't have that bounce, that's kind of contributing to the what I was calling laziness about getting those arms away, which is why you're kind of still coming forwards. Whereas if you can bring your elbows through your sides, even if you've got a slight flare out, that's fine, but elbows through your sides to create that natural spring, then maybe that's going to help get your hands over your knees to then get that sequencing right into the front, okay? Hopefully, I'm not just absolutely overburdened with, I realize that's like 10 minutes that I've been talking about your one, but there's quite a lot that you can do in here to try and unpack what's going on. And certainly the pointing toes towards the front of the machine and thinking about getting those elbows through to your sides are going to help. Now, of course, the elbows thing, it's a little bit, because on the water rowers tend to feather and come out a lot more because of they're actually holding a handle. So, or like a proper oar, so you might want to take that one with a pinch of salt if you're on the water. But if you're just an indoor rowing machine warrior, then I'd kind of say think about getting just less of an out so you can get those elbows through, create that springiness to then help your arms come away, and point your toes towards the front of the machine to get that leg down, and hopefully that will everything will start to roll into place. But I'd be really interested to see for both you and Jeff what happens after a few sessions where you try and put in any of those tips. Hopefully I've not just been talking nonsense and you've actually paid attention and kind of thought that what I was saying is useful. Okay, so that's it. So quite an in-depth look at Piotr's technique here, and a relatively good one for Jeff too, and his dogs in the swimming pool. So I do hope you enjoyed this episode of Form Check Fridays. And remember, if you want to send me a video of you rowing, please send a link to info@rowalong.com, and I will feature it in a future video. I'll make sure and send you an email with my global overview thoughts first, but I will then I will then show it in a future video. I'm just running out of words. So make sure and check out some of the workouts on this RowAlong channel. I've got over 300 up there now. I've got a 2K plan, a 5K, a 10K, got a 500 meter plan. We're just coming to the close on the 30 days of 30-minute workouts each. And every one of my workouts can just work as a standalone depending on what you want to do that day. So please just take a look through my channel, through my library, through the various playlists, and see if there's anything that you want to row along to. And and hopefully I will see you in one of them, or I will see you in a future Form Check Friday. Maybe you'll be the star behind me. Okay, right, thank you so much. Please look after yourselves, stay safe, be well. Bye-bye.